everyone. Welcome to the show. I am your host, Chubby, and this is.
Angel, hello.
Yes, she is joining us again. How is everyone doing? Well, don't all answer all at once.
Please don't.
Um, yes, well, today is episode 78, freedom of speech, free speech, First Amendment, whatever you guys want to call it. Today is a level 4 elephant. Yes, because freedom of speech is not, it is granted globally, but it has its restrictions. So, as per usual, we're going to go right along with the definition of what freedom or free speech is. Here we go. Freedom of speech is a principle that supports the freedom of an individual or a community to articulate their opinions and ideas without fear of retaliation, censorship, of legal sanction. But I was reading, and if we go to the legal definition, the First Amendment guarantees freedom concerning religion, expression, assembly, and the right to petition. It guarantees freedom of expression by prohibiting Congress from restricting the press or the rights of an individual to speak freely. You see the two definitions, right? Two different, right?
Yeah.
One is plain English, and the other one is based on the Constitution and the what the government can do for you. Based on that, everybody has the right to
Say what they have to say.
they have the right to say what they have to say, and they have the right to preach their religion everywhere, right? Without causing any harm, without bothering anybody, without having no harassment, right?
Yeah.
So if we go based on that, that we have the freedom to do that, but that's here in the United States, right? We have that.
Yeah.
But this is another thing, guys. Okay, so Angel is not a social media person at all whatsoever. She lives under a boulder when it comes to social media, which is fine. Obviously, this is our job to do, social media. It's our but we use social media, as an outlet, because we use that as our creative outlet to do it. So obviously, Angel hasn't noticed this, but on social media, they are restricting, they are censoring the LGBT community. They are censoring freedom of to express your body, the nude body. Um Freedom, they're censoring mostly a lot of things that people do not realize that they're being censored. And in social media, it's called being shadow banned, so meaning no one could see your work. So you're posting, trying to get engaged in audiences, but your work is being censored, is you're shadow banned, so you're in a dark hole, nobody could see your work, you're posting for no reason. And then there's
Does
actual
that mean everything you did or that one thing?
everything you do is just being shadow banned, nobody could see it, and you're not able to do much about it. But there's also settings you could change to try to um change the
Mhm.
settings and things like that. Yeah, that's one of the ways that people that they could restrict your freedom of speech, your freedom to do whatever you can. Even our podcast could be shadow banned on YouTube or in whenever, if they find it that is being going against their guidelines. We're just sharing our thoughts. What is one way you've seen freedom of speech or whatever being banned or restricted in whatever ways?
Mostly in conversation where, an individual would be speaking to another individual, you spoke your piece and then all of a sudden, some narcissist, oh, what you're saying is wrong. It's not correct. Let me tell you how it is.
Right,
Keep in mind, some people, what they don't understand is freedom of speech is me being able to speak my piece, my truth.
right,
My truth may not be true in your, associated to you, because you may have not lived it, you didn't experience it, you don't know what's going on. However, it's mine. So I'm telling you, if you don't, you can choose to accept it or not. That's your business. However, I have my right to say, and you have your right to say. To deny someone the right to say their piece, it's not only disrespectful, it's a whole lot of stuff. But what I've seen, if not on buses, if not simply walking the street, or simply, with going to an event, people talk to one another, but all of a sudden someone overhears a conversation and you're like, it's, oh no, you're wrong about this, or never heard that before. I don't think that's true. I'm not here to speak your truth. This is my truth, my chapter, my book. It has nothing to do with you. So freedom of speech, in my opinion, is people saying, their story, their line, in their drama. It doesn't make sense to say, oh, freedom of speech is me going to some kind of website, researching, and be like, okay, so this is the truth, but that's not what the person experienced. That's not what the person saw face to face for them. That's not what it meant to them.
Right. Yeah, freedom of speech in a global scale, on a bigger scale, more than just, conversational piece, is also like we were talking earlier, when does freedom of speech become hate speech? And is it, and obviously is when it's attacking somebody and it's actually causing harm to somebody else, right? you
Mm-hmm.
know and but when does the government get involved into it? If when we're doing freedom of speech rallies, like, like making marches about whatever the issue may be at the time, women's rights, Black Lives Matters, Asian hate, like you name it, we're using our freedom of speech to bring awareness to these things, right? And we're making marches, LGBTQ, whatever, right?
Yeah.
But then the government still attacks that and thinks that we are protesting because, we are against the government. But what about hate speech when it is actually, in fact, targeting the government and is actually causing harm? Where are they when that's happening?
I think whenever something like that happens, they probably think, oh no, those people are just being honest. When it comes to free speech, sometimes people don't understand the difference between being honest and being very, I guess, hurtful,
Right.
being very aggressive for no reason. Like, for
And
example, you could tell someone, you know what, that dress looks horrible on you. Here's another way. I like the dress, but let's try it in a different color.
that's
See?
a yeah,
Different.
right.
How you say it, how you come off. People, you may feel an opinion about something. That does not mean we're going to just get up and say, I'm going to say it like this, and that's it. But if I were to turn around and say my piece, and I'm saying, I'm going to say it like this, it'll be you saying, oh my gosh, she's attacking me. Didn't you attack me first? So
Right.
now I have to watch how I say it. So I look like, oh, I'm trying to appease you while you attack me because it's okay for you to attack me. See, I'm telling you, narcissists out there. Narcissists.
And that also deals with the same concept about, for example, a Caucasian person could say literally the most heinous things in the planet, and all they get is a slap in the wrist and be like, "You go on your way." A person of color could do the same thing, and they get the maximum sentence and go to jail, and they both did the same thing. Also, obviously, in that context, it has to deal with race. Unfortunately, it does deal with race. Your freedom of speech can also limit you and limit the way that you could express a certain idea that you have just because of your race. And
Mm-hmm.
I find that obviously the government can delegate what they deem to be appropriate or not, and they have the obviously the right to do as they please because they think that they control the people, but the people are letting the government control, you know, like we're giving them the right to control us when I thought we were the people. I don't know. But it goes back all the way down to the First Amendment, you know? I mean, to the amendments, like why bother having all these rights when we are the ones that made it? Yeah, now we're giving the government the power.
It's like,
So,
okay, we've made the rule. Okay, you can talk. But then turn around. Well, wait, I know I said you could talk, but I don't mean all the time
right, not
or about certain things. I just said you can talk, but I'm trying to hint at you that there is a limit to some of it, even though I didn't put the limit there.
right, exactly. It's like an unspoken something that you automatically have to know. It doesn't work that way.
Or better yet, there's the fine line. Please read it. I know it's really tiny. You don't wear glasses, so please find the
Oh,
fine line and read it.
always the fine print. You guys need to read fine print on anything and everything and any legal
Yes.
documentation you read. But again, that is ways that they're like loopholes,
Mhm.
right? That the government or anybody in power they find to screw you over sometimes, you know.
Or that there's another thing. How, depending on your age, what if I say something, oh, this person is 15, this person is 29. They're both saying the same thing, but they might look at the 15-year-old saying, you don't know what you're talking about. If you're
Right,
talking about school things, maybe. Talking about kid related things, sure. But you can't be talking about, oh, the workplace. Can't be talking about professional stuff. What would you know? You're only 15.
right,
29-year-old now. That person go to work. That person did this, have life experience. But then a 50-year-old or an 80-year-old could always come and say, what are you talking about?
right,
What do you think? So I'm like, freedom of speech, we limit ourselves with, sometimes we don't know that we do it, but we have to understand, regardless of your age, your race, regardless of your religion, that person has a truth, that person has a story. Listen to their story. The person could be lying. You know, there are liars out there. There are narcissists. There are people who say pretty things and they don't mean anything they say. Their actions speak more. But listen to the story anyway. And then afterwards, speak your piece, your truth.
that's true. I agree with you. Obviously, we're talking about freedom of speech in all aspects of life. As I mentioned, like talking about government wise, Angel is talking about in a more private, human scale, one on one. But
Yeah.
she's right. We are always limiting ourselves. Like you have no right to talk because you're not in my shoes, type of deal. And granted it might be true to a degree, but at the end of the day we are still connected and we're still humans, what Angel might have experienced, I might have experienced it in a different way, but it still does not negate that we experience something in that same capacity, you know so yeah. The government, I go back to the government because it is the bigger issue in the world we live in today. Right now our podcast could be shut down, banned, taken down because they can, just because they can. Even with the restrictions that we put, this is not child, for example, on YouTube, like I could be like, this is not for children, and we're like only adults could hear this. You could put the settings and everything, but if they still feel like it's going against their guidelines, it will get shut down. And why do we have to censor everything, even curse words are just that. You give it the power to be what you want it to be. If you say the B word, well, you don't like the B word, don't hear the B word. But it's an example, a shitty one, but it's still, see, even that could get bleeped out. but who's to say that? I mean, yes, words carry power. I truly believe
Okay.
that words are knowledge, you know. But at the same time, it's like, why are you trying to deny the access to some people to hear something different just because you the guidelines you have? It's a personal thing also too. YouTube's guideline is a personal thing. It's not like it's a global scale. All social media or all platforms have the same guidelines. Like on Twitter, you could post nudes and nobody says anything, and you could have your freedom of speech loud as hell. While on Instagram, it's like, oh, you showed a nipple, you can do that.
Well,
There's no freedom of expression there. There's always a limit. There was this artist named Chilla Man. He did a an experiment on social media where he posted his pre I'm sorry, I can't be technical here because I'm not too sure with the term, but before surgery, their top surgery with their nipples, as female body presenting, and then after their surgeries, flash chest, nipples showing. Guess which one got censored or banned or restricted?
you don't gotta tell me.
The areolas with more tissue on it. And I was like, you see, same person. One has more tissue, the other one is more flat chested. Yet this one is the one that's like, nah, we can't see that. Why?
I mean,
Society.
if that was the case, you would think they would say, you know what, both of them take down.
I would have taken
Rather
both of
than
them down.
rather than choose which one, I'll take both down because you know what, truth, honestly, it is the same person representing two different things, but it is the same person.
But it's the same thing. Two areolas, two nipples, two things showing. Like, I don't know. The fact that the society can choose what is right to be expressed and deemed correct, it is infuriating to me. Guys, we gotta do better. Now that we know better, we gotta do better. We have to dismantle this whole notion that the male nipple, areola, whatever, is acceptable just because it's flatter and it doesn't have much tissue. But what about the men that do have more tissue on their breasts? What now? Are they gonna get censored too? I mean, if that's the case, go right ahead. Or they will probably are not, because it's a man wearing the
Mm.
tissue. And I mean man as in like a cis heterosexual like white male. You know, just to clarify here. Or presenting a male presenting man. And
Okay.
yes, but you get my point, right? This is just one example of how freedom of speech, which also includes expression, religion, can be restricted. And I think it gets on my last nerve. Like, I can't deal with that. But to move it along, I did want to share that I did find three restrictions on freedom of speech, which is time, place, and manner. Limitations based on time and place and manner apply to all speech regardless of the view expressed. They are generally restrictions that are intended to balance other rights or a legitimate government interest. Like you said earlier, time, place, and manner. It's true. The way you say things, the way you say things. And by place, I'm assuming not a government building, you know?
I'm guessing. Or not only that, it doesn't have any type of logo or type of piece.
Right, like a like
It's
a
like
like an establishment. Yeah.
imagine you're doing a podcast, but you have something next to you, and it's like, I'm gonna look at this video again. Yep, I noticed this. I got to take this down
Right,
because
like
people are gonna get the wrong impression of
like
our organization or that organization.
we're not sponsored by certain things, so we're not allowed to talk about certain things that, like we've always mentioned Netflix on the beginning of our podcast. I mean, we're not sponsored by them, but we're just bringing them more people to talk about them. I mean, hello, everybody knows about Netflix, so it's not like. But yeah, um like an establishment like Google, you can't go to their place and be like, bash them because just because there's certain things we don't agree with. So, and the time, that one, I'm assuming they mean like, and they do not mean time as in morning, afternoon, or night. I'm assuming like if there's something already going on, like the many assassinations of most people we know, maybe that type of time.
Maybe. Time could mean like in terms of what we could have done or what we could have done in 1990, we may not be able to do in 2021. Like
Mm.
there are certain things right now that is trending versus things that were back then. It trended, but we can't use it. If we use it,
Mm.
somebody might be offended or what is that? I'm not a part of that. I don't like this. And then all of a sudden, cut everything.
You just bring a good point too, because I was also reading about freedom of speech and when does it become too sensitive for the audience. Like, when do we need to censor a lot of things? And most of the millennials, it reached like a 59% of millennials saying they need everything censored because of their sensitivity. And I'm just quoting what I read. um yeah, but again, I get it. We are more aware of things that are offensive and things that should not have been even said to begin with. But obviously, like I said earlier, if we know better, we do better. And that's what we're trying to do. Hence why we have the elephants, because this is a level 4. And freedom of speech is limited to most people. Yes, it's across 100 in the 150 nations, it is, but there's limitations. Like, Australia has limitations, and other parts of the country have limitations. But yes, I get it. We are gaining more knowledge about what is to be um offensive, but that doesn't equate to being sensitive. Oh, you're too sensitive, millennial, you need to like not talk like that. I
Oh
mean,
my God, cut it out.
or like when they say we need to be politically correct when we're saying something.
That's nonsense, by the way.
eh, I also get that we have to be um cognizant of the fact that certain things will affect someone in a way.
Yeah.
But to be politically correct when you don't know how to be politically correct, it is insane to me to expect that from everybody, for even the general population that is not in the, like, this type of field of like government, or the advocacy, or you know an
And keep in
activist.
mind when people do talk, regardless if they have the intention to offend or not, it will offend someone.
Right, right.
You can just be simply saying happy birthday to someone. You do not realize you offended someone.
That is true.
It doesn't matter. If you intended, you could, I mean, starting off by saying, I hope this doesn't offend anyone. I do apologize, but happy birthday, Lisa, or happy birthday, Mark, or happy birthday. That could offend a person. They don't care.
Right.
People around the world, they could be offended, but the intention, regardless if it's not to offend or not, we have to respect that that person has freedom of speech. But then there are places where people do not have freedom of speech at all. They can die, or rather, they can speak, but they can die for speaking their truth or speaking at all. Maybe for their religion, maybe for their race, maybe for their gender. But let's be, I guess what I'm trying to say is let's be mindful. And I get it, people are sensitive of certain topics, but also be respectful as well when you're trying to say, could you please, be mindful rather than be like, oh, what you're saying, I don't like it, this and that, and then make the person feel like they intended to harm you with their words.
Trust me, you reminded me of this incident that happened a couple of years ago. the person's grandparent was sick, and I said, um, I'm sending you good vibes. Hopefully, everything, you know, it goes well. The person goes to say, you need to say, may God bless the person. And I'm like, I'm not religious like that. I am very spiritual. So my sending you good vibe equates to God bless the person. But they got so offended because I didn't use the words that they wanted me to use. And it caused a huge, like, go screw yourself. And I'm like, but I'm not religious. I can't use words that do not feel right with my being. So how can you tell me I'm wrong?
Wow.
That was intense. And I was like, is this person okay? Because sometimes it deals with the person themselves. It's like you went off your hinges in 2 seconds. Like, are you okay? you know but anyway, that was just an example that you reminded me of. Well, guys, if we could stay here and talk about freedom of speech all day, because it is intricate and it has a lot of, like, different avenues to talk about. But we got to keep it short and sweet for you guys. If you guys have anything to add to this, which I know there is, I am going to be sharing a lot of it on social media, on Instagram, if you follow us, on the stories. But right now, Angel is going to share some of the quotes that she found, and then we're gonna go on to our final thoughts. So,
Yay.
sound good? Sound good.
Yep.
Okay, here we go.
Quote number one: the freedom of speech of private individuals includes the right to not agree, not to listen, and to not finance one's own antagonist. This is by Ayn Rand. I hope I said her name right.
Hopefully, it's okay.
No, I mean, I read her book. Well, I'm trying to finish one of her books. That's why
Oh,
I
that's
took to
cool.
that quote. But
That is true. I don't have to agree
I'm
with
just,
you.
I don't have, exactly. You don't have to agree with, you don't have to agree with us. You don't have to care about anything we're saying. However, if you're here, I'm hoping that you're open minded. I'm hoping that you're willing to, be a part of the conversation at least. All it is conversation. Let's talk it out. Let's be, I keep using the word adult. I don't know why I do that. Now I realize what I'm doing now. But let's be, you know, people about it. Now I'm going to change my word, you guys. People. People about it. Because it doesn't make sense to be like, I don't like what you're saying. So, you know what? This is what I'm going to say. I'm going to be hurtful. You don't got to agree. I was like, I don't agree with you. Tell me why. It could be a long paragraph. Tell me why. And then we could keep conversation going. That's beautiful. You don't have to listen to me again.
Talking it out and saying what bothers you or what's going on. I mean, obviously, if
Yeah,
you could use your mouth to say hateful things, use it to create beautiful dialogue between the other person.
exactly. Because again, it really doesn't make sense to, oh, I'm going to look at this, I'm going to tell them about themselves and not realize that commenters or individuals looking at the video may say, what's wrong with this person's comment? You
Right.
don't have to say all that. If you didn't like it, you could have said, you know what? Let me look at something else because this isn't my cup of tea.
True.
I drink coffee. I'm just
Right.
saying.
Okay.
Quote number two: if liberty means anything at all, it means the right to tell people what they do not want to hear. This is by George Orwell.
Hey, there's many opinions out there. We don't have to agree with any of them.
At
But,
all.
but at the same time, this is where I'm going at. If you don't agree with something, just move it along. If it's not affecting you in any way, move it along. But if it's affecting you and that you had to say something, sit with yourself and wonder why that thought came to your mind.
I mean, certain things that are said, keep in mind everyone go through things on a daily basis. So maybe this person said something and it's like, it hit me a certain type of way. It just hit me a certain type of way. I don't like the fact that this person said it like this. You're being insensitive. let me tell you how you're being insensitive. Or it hit me some type of way because I felt like you were speaking to me. Thank you for recognizing this issue. It could be whatever. But before you go typing, before you go making a video of your own, let's have a sit down and think about it first. Don't just go jump.
Right, right. And your last quote.
I disapprove of what you say, but I will defend to the death your right to say it. S.J. Talentry. I said the last name right.
Talent. I'm not too sure.
Talentine.
It's okay.
I I think I heard this quote somewhere, but it was somewhat in it seemed like comical, but I know that it could also be considered something serious. It's true. You don't A person could be saying this and that, and it could be very, sometimes people say stuff and it's very mm, it got a lot of power to it, but you're like, honestly though, I still want you to be able to say your piece though. So of course I will defend your right to say it to the death, because there are things that we do not want to hear, but we would not know that point of view unless someone said it. It would not exist in books, in social media, anywhere unless it was said. However, again, I do believe there is a proper way of saying something without showing hatred.
Exactly. Exactly. I did find two more quotes that I wanted to share with you all. Are we really free, government? We're going to give back some of your freedoms, the people. Well, if it can be taken, it is not a freedom in the first place. Just like everything, you can't just give it and then take it. So what's the whole point of giving it if you at the end we're gonna take it back regardless? Like I don't understand. But yeah, I thought I saw that. I'm like,
Exactly.
and let's share with you all because sometimes. And my last one, people have only as much liberty as they have the intelligence to want the courage to take it. Emma Goldman. What we're doing right now, what the suffragettes did. Like if there's something bothering you about something and you are able to do something about it, why don't you do it? Is it because you're complacent and you're in your bubble and you're like, blah blah blah, it doesn't bother me, it doesn't have nothing to do with me?
Are
Again,
you scared?
well, my point that I was going to bring up, yes, some countries, some people are not allowed, they don't have the liberty to express any, the opposite because they will get killed for it. For example, just like the singer named Halle Love, she's a Kurdish singer. She literally spoke about against her government because her music is very political, you know, and she was talking against her government and whatever, and she had to flee the country because they are looking for her to literally kill her.
Well,
Yes, but her music is brilliant. It brings awareness to what's happening to the Kurdish people and all the wars and whatever. She did a music video called Revolution, and she was in the middle of war filming the video of what was happening.
but all I
And
did was sing a song.
a political song about her government. So yeah, no,
No,
there
I
it's not
got
like
one.
here. You could sing so many songs about the United States, and you know that we could sing so many songs going against the government, saying screw yourself, do this, do that, and they because we are protected under the government's First Amendment, we are so privileged that we get away with it. But over there, that does not exist to be protected, that you are allowed. It's like treason, basically, for them.
Right. Okay.
You're not allowed to talk about your government in a negative way because that to them is you going against them. So anyway, that's just one example of of speaking up for something that if you do not approve of and you're able to change it, why don't you do it?
Mm.
Even if it's gonna cost your life, some people have died for this, for to change, the laws.
Yeah.
that have been implemented throughout the years. Hence why we have so many laws now that have changed since the beginning of time because of certain people, certain situations.
That decided to get up and say, listen, something doesn't look right. You're not listening to me on paper. So let me talk to you.
Right, exactly. Any final thoughts?
When it comes to free speech, I do believe that, of course, it needs to be censored. There are things that children are not supposed to hear, know, or understand until a certain age. I will be honest with that. There are certain things that adults shouldn't be able to do because, one, it is not appropriate, or it is dis- destructive. However, again, back to me speaking my truth. If a person says, oh, I worked somewhere, and where I worked at was very, I had a supervisor who was very disrespectful, not mindful of my culture, was sexist, or that, you experience certain things in the workplace or outside just because you did not experience it, or just because you didn't see that happen to me, doesn't mean the first thing you should say is, what are you talking about? You're totally lying. I never saw that happen to you. Where did this come from all of a sudden? Oh my gosh, Angel, like I didn't know this was the type of person you are. I Let me tell you my truth, and then we could have an open dialogue back and forth about it, rather than the first thing you say is, you're lying, or you don't know what you're talking about. Be respectful, be mindful, be polite, and let's learn to be honest without being jerks. Example, again, with the dress. Does this dress doesn't look good on you, versus, I want to see how it looks in a different color. You're saying the same thing, but it's different. But the thing is, one doesn't want to hurt the person, because maybe the person is trying to say, I don't think it's you. I just think the dress itself is disgusting. But instead of, let's just find a way to fix this, rather than, oh my gosh, you just, atrocious. Come on, let's be respectful, let's be mindful, let's be people, huh? Be people about the conversation, and be like, yo, instead of us fighting, instead of us, throwing hate speech out there, where the youth is now throwing hate speech at each other, we could stop that today and say, no, this is what I feel. This is what happened to me. Let's have dialogue about it, because I don't know if it's something you experienced. I don't know if it's something you understand. Let's understand it together through freedom of speech. Well, freedom of speech.
No, I agree with you, obviously, to a certain degree, because I feel like uh, what is deemed inappropriate, it has to be with a personal choice or a personal viewpoint. But no, there are certain things that I feel like kids, and I mean children under like 15 years old, need to live their childhood. So I agree with that. They need to live as kids, as free from the troubles of the world. But some kids are already going through a lot by the age of 5 in the world we live in today. You know,
Yeah.
so to that, there's nothing much we could do. But for the adult world, I feel like they can be more mindful of the restrictions, because there are kids out there now using social media that are 12 years old on Instagram, and you know the restrictions that comes with that. There's always a loophole. They're
Yeah.
becoming smarter than we are, and how social media can, they do ask for your age, but again, they could
They can lie.
bypass that. They could bypass that, and there is no actual proof of, hey, But I do agree with you. Be mindful. My final thoughts to this is, we are very fortunate that we live in a free world, and a free country where our freedom of speech. Again, we're gonna be quoting all of that
Oh
because
my gosh, that's all it is. We should have just did like this the whole time. Ladies and gentlemen,
we
just
might be
like that.
offending somebody right now because they think we live in a free country. No, we don't. We live in a limited country.
There is
Our
limits
country
to what we say. Yeah.
our country is so limited that you don't see it because you are bombarded with this whole, like, oh, you could do this and this and this, but the moment you want to do something that goes against their viewpoints, or against the way that they want you to be, you already, messing up. They're like, now you are not free. So keep in mind, we're limited. We're super limited. Not as limited as many countries, but anyway, I digress. Let's go back to my original statement. Um, we are in a country where we are able to express ourselves to the fullest extent. Obviously, use it. Let's use it. Let's try to bring awareness to all the things that we care for, and let's try to do all the things that we want to do, just like we're trying to do with this podcast. Let's try to use it before it's gone. And another thought, if you don't understand something, or why something's being done, or why the person is saying what they're saying, try to understand them, and just don't try to write them off just because you have your own mindset set. Try to reframe and try to understand that everybody's different for a reason, and not everybody's going to think like you. you know and
Exactly. Ask a question. How come you said what you said?
Right. And you also have to be mindful that everybody who comes to the United States, they probably, you don't know their backstories. You don't know where they came from. You don't know their limitations in their countries, and why they behave the way they do here. And to them, this is freedom, because where they come from, they were so limited. For example, and I'm going to bring up Cuba, they're so limited there that when they come here, the jobs that is being offered here at $10 an hour, $11 an hour, to them that's a dream, because over there that's not how they work. To them, that's not how their life is over there. You can't even speak up against your own government there either. You will get executed, you will get killed, hence the political prisoners. So yes, granted, the United States has a lot of freedoms, but we are still limited, and we could still, use it. Just use it to your best abilities, and try to bring more awareness, and leave the hate speech behind. Like, like, we don't need that. Like, we don't, try to bring peace instead of war. Other than that, hopefully this episode was somewhat informational, or brought your mind to a different level, and made you open your eyes to things that you didn't know about. I don't know, just leave your comments below, talk to us, let us know how you feel.
Again, when we say talk to us, we do mean it. I hope you guys understand. We love the conversation, the back and forth. We love knowing what you guys feel, how you think. It helps us. We grow like this, and we grow from one another by knowing how you feel, what you think, and how I feel, what I think. Ask away, ask your question, be a part. Just let us know how you think.
Exactly. And please watch our last episode, episode 77. Um Freedom of speech stem from human rights, since it is number one in the list. So that one's already out. So you go check it out on YouTube and all your listening platforms. Again, thank you so much for everybody listening to us on Anchor, on YouTube, and Spotify, and Apple Music, and I don't know, any other social media thingy listening out there. We truly appreciate it. And
Me too.
thank you so much. And we hope to see you or hear from you on our next episode. Stay fearless, everybody.
Stay beautiful.